What if the employee working the night shift was already dead? The worst part of working the night shift at Jollibee was not the empty restaurant. It was the employee who clocked in every night, even though he died 10 years ago. The Jollibee restaurant on Maplewood Street, Phoenix, Arizona looked normal during the day. Bright lights, families laughing, kids holding chicken buckets and smiling at the giant bee mascot statue outside the door. But at night, the place felt different. Daniel Carter noticed it on his first night shift. The restaurant manager, Mark Jensen, handed him a red uniform and pointed toward the empty dining hall. "Just clean the tables and mop the floor after midnight," Mark said. "Night shift is quiet here." "Too quiet." Daniel laughed nervously. At 1:17 a.m., the last customer left. The automatic door closed with a soft click. Silence filled the restaurant. Daniel grabbed a mop bucket and started cleaning the floor near the soda machines. The lights above flickered. Once, twice. Then the air inside the restaurant suddenly felt cold. Not normal cold. The kind of cold that crawls under your skin. Daniel looked toward the kitchen. The fryer machines were off. The grills were silent. Everything was dark, except one light. A small white light inside the employee locker room. Daniel frowned. "Mark," he called. No answer. The light inside the locker room flickered again. Daniel slowly walked toward the hallway. The hallway felt darker than the rest of the restaurant. The walls were covered with old employee photos, most of them smiling. But one picture caught Daniel's attention. A worker wearing a Jollibee uniform. Name tag, Kevin Morales. Under the photo was a small black ribbon. And a date, 2014. Daniel leaned closer. "Why does this guy have a memorial photo?" he whispered. Suddenly, clack. A locker slammed shut inside the locker room. Daniel jumped. "Hello." No response. Only silence. Then, a faint sound. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps. Daniel's heart began to beat faster. The locker room door slowly creaked open, and someone walked out. A tall man in a Jollibee uniform, his head slightly lowered. Daniel sighed in relief. Oh, another employee. The man walked past him. Slowly, very slowly. Daniel noticed something strange. The man's uniform looked old. The color was faded, and his shoes were wet, leaving dark footprints on the floor. Daniel followed him with his eyes. "Hey, I'm Daniel," he said. The man stopped walking. For a moment, he didn't move. Then he slowly turned his head. Daniel felt his stomach drop. The man's face was pale. Too pale. His eyes looked empty, and the skin around his neck was dark purple, like something had once been wrapped tightly around it. The man spoke in a weak whisper. "Are you new here?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah." The man stared at him for several seconds. Then he said something that made Daniel's blood run cold. "You should not work the night shift here." Daniel forced a laugh. "Why?" The man's face slowly twisted into a strange smile. "Because..." The lights above them suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the hallway. And in that darkness, Daniel heard the man whisper, "Some employees never clock out." Daniel stood frozen in the dark hallway. The man in the faded Jollibee uniform slowly walked away toward the kitchen. Daniel's heart was pounding hard in his chest. "Hey, wait," Daniel called. The man did not stop. His footsteps were strange. Drag step, like his shoes were stuck to the floor. Daniel followed him into the kitchen. The cold air inside felt heavier now. The fryer machines were silent. The grills were dark. But something strange was happening. One of the order screens suddenly turned on by itself. A soft green light filled the room. Daniel looked at the screen. An order appeared. Order number 66. Item: chicken bucket, night special. Daniel frowned. No one ordered anything. Then the kitchen freezer door slowly creaked open. The man in the old uniform walked inside. Daniel rushed after him. "Wait." The freezer room was freezing cold. Frost covered the metal shelves. But the man was gone. Completely gone. Daniel looked around. Where did he? Suddenly, he heard breathing behind him. Cold breath. Right next to his ear. A whisper followed. "You should not follow him." Daniel spun around. It was Sarah, another night employee. She looked terrified. "You saw him, didn't you?" she whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, who is that guy?" Sarah grabbed Daniel's arm. "We need to leave the freezer." They stepped back into the kitchen. Sarah quickly shut the freezer door. Her hands were shaking. "That man, his name was Kevin Morales." Daniel's eyes widened. "The guy in the photo?" Sarah nodded. "He worked here 10 years ago. What happened to him?" Sarah looked toward the dark hallway. Her voice dropped. He died here. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. How? Sarah hesitated. Then she whispered the words slowly. He was found hanging inside the freezer. Daniel felt sick. But I just saw him walk in there. Sarah nodded again. That's because he still works here. Daniel tried to laugh, but the sound died in his throat. That's not funny. Sarah leaned closer. I'm not joking. She pointed toward the freezer door. Every night, at the same time, Kevin comes out of the freezer. Daniel's hands started to shake. And then, Sarah looked at him with wide eyes. And then he looks for someone to replace him. Suddenly, bang! The freezer door slammed from the inside. Both of them jumped. Then a loud scratching sound started, like nails dragging across metal. Something was trying to get out. The scratching inside the freezer grew louder. Daniel backed away slowly. What is that? He whispered. Sarah looked terrified. He does that sometimes. The scratching stopped. For a moment, everything was silent again. Then the freezer door handle slowly turned. Daniel felt his chest tighten. The door opened. Cold fog rolled out across the kitchen floor. And Kevin stepped out again. But something was different now. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle. His neck looked broken. Dark marks surrounded it. Kevin stared directly at Daniel. His pale lips moved slowly. You saw me. Daniel felt frozen. Kevin began walking toward him. Drag, step, drag, step. Sarah grabbed Daniel's arm. Don't talk to him. Kevin stopped only a few feet away. His empty eyes locked onto Daniel's face. You are new here. Daniel forced himself to speak. Yeah. Kevin's lips slowly stretched into a crooked smile. Good. Daniel's stomach dropped. Kevin raised one trembling hand and pointed toward the freezer. You should see where I died. Sarah shouted. No. Kevin's eyes suddenly turned dark. The lights above them flickered violently. Then the freezer door slammed open again. Inside the freezer, something moved. Daniel looked inside. At first, he thought it was a pile of trash bags. Then he realized something horrifying. It was a body, frozen solid, still wearing an old Jollibee uniform. Daniel stepped closer. The face of the frozen corpse was twisted in terror, and the name tag was clearly visible. Kevin Morales. Daniel's brain struggled to understand. How can he be there and here? Kevin suddenly appeared right behind him. His cold voice whispered, Because I never left. Suddenly, Kevin grabbed Daniel's shoulder. His hand felt like ice. I've been waiting for someone. Daniel tried to pull away. For what? Kevin's smile grew wider. For the next employee who will die in the freezer. Suddenly, the lights went out again. The kitchen fell into complete darkness. And from inside the freezer, Daniel heard something new. More breathing. More than one person. Many people. And they were all whispering the same thing. Help us. The kitchen was completely dark. Only the faint green glow of the order screen lit the room. Daniel could hear the whispers again. Help us. Help us. The voices were coming from inside the freezer. His chest felt tight. Did you hear that? Daniel whispered. Sarah nodded slowly. Her face had turned pale. They started again. Daniel looked at her. What do you mean started? Sarah swallowed nervously. They only whisper when Kevin is angry. Kevin was standing in the corner of the kitchen. His body looked wrong. Too still. Too quiet. Then his head slowly turned toward the freezer. And he whispered something. A strange sentence. Show him. Suddenly the freezer door opened again. Cold fog rolled across the floor like ghostly smoke. Daniel stepped closer. His heart was beating fast. Inside the freezer, the shelves were covered in frost. But something else was there too. Dark shapes. More shapes than before. Daniel wiped frost off one of the shelves. And what he saw made his blood freeze. Another frozen body. A man wearing a Jollibee uniform. Name tag. Robert Lee. Daniel stepped back. There's another one. Sarah looked away. I told you. Daniel wiped frost from another shelf. Another body. Then another. And another. All employees. All wearing old uniforms. Daniel's voice shook. How many people died here? Sarah whispered the answer. No one knows. Kevin suddenly moved closer. His hollow eyes stared at Daniel. They were all night workers. Daniel felt sick. Did you kill them? Kevin slowly shook his head. No. Then his voice dropped to a whisper. The restaurant did. Daniel frowned. What does that mean? Kevin pointed toward the ceiling. The owner made a deal. The lights flickered violently. Wind rushed through the hallway, even though the doors were closed. Kevin continued. Every 10 years, the restaurant must take new souls. Daniel felt cold fear crawling down his spine. What happens if it doesn't? Kevin's face twisted into a horrifying smile. Then everyone inside dies. Suddenly, the order screen turned bright red. A new order appeared. Order number 66. Employee required. Daniel's name appeared on the screen. Sarah gasped. Oh no. Daniel's heart stopped. What does that mean? Sarah looked at him with terrified eyes. It means the restaurant has chosen you. Daniel backed away from the freezer. No, no, that's crazy. Kevin stepped closer. His whisper echoed through the kitchen. You will work here forever. Before Daniel could move, something grabbed his ankle. A frozen hand shot out from the freezer. Then another. And another. The dead employees were reaching for him, pulling him toward the cold darkness. Daniel screamed, if you're still listening to this story, you need to hear what happened next, because what Daniel discovered inside that freezer was even more terrifying. Daniel kicked violently. The frozen hands slowly released him. He fell backward onto the kitchen floor, breathing hard. Sarah grabbed him. We have to leave. They ran toward the back exit. But when Daniel pulled the door handle, the door would not open. Locked. From the outside, Kevin slowly walked toward them again. His broken neck twisted as he moved. You cannot leave, Daniel shouted. Who made this deal? Kevin pointed toward the manager's office. Mark Jensen. Daniel's eyes widened. The manager? Kevin nodded slowly. 10 years ago, the restaurant was failing. Customers stopped coming. Money was gone. Kevin's voice became darker. So Mark made a deal with something inside the freezer. Sarah whispered. What thing? Kevin's empty eyes turned toward the dark freezer room. You don't want to see it. Suddenly, the freezer door slammed open again. A deep growl echoed from inside. Not human. Something huge moved in the darkness. Heavy footsteps. Thud, thud, thud. Daniel stared in horror. What is that? Kevin whispered one final sentence. The thing that owns this restaurant. Then the creature stepped into the light, and Daniel realized something terrifying. The creature was wearing a Jollibee mascot head, but the body underneath was not human. Long black arms, sharp claws, and dozens of hollow eyes inside the mascot's mouth. The creature looked at Daniel, and it spoke in a deep voice. Your shift begins now. The creature stepped forward slowly. The Jollibee mascot head twisted as it moved. The smiling cartoon face looked friendly at first, but the mouth was wrong. Inside the mouth were rows of small black eyes, blinking one after another. Daniel felt his body freeze. The creature's long claws scratched the kitchen floor. Sarah grabbed Daniel's arm. We have to run. But there was nowhere to run. Every door in the restaurant suddenly slammed shut. The windows turned black, like the outside world had disappeared. Kevin stood quietly beside the freezer, watching, waiting. The creature spoke again. Its voice sounded like many voices speaking together. Deep, wet, hungry. This restaurant must feed. Daniel shook his head. No, no, this isn't real. The creature tilted its mascot head slowly. It is real. It pointed one claw toward the freezer. 10 years ago, Kevin fed us. Kevin whispered quietly. I had no choice. Daniel's heart pounded. What do you mean? Kevin's eyes filled with pain. The manager locked me in the freezer. Daniel turned toward the office hallway. You mean Mark? Kevin nodded. He needed someone to offer. Kevin pointed toward the frozen bodies again. After me, others came. Daniel looked back at the creature. So the manager sacrifices employees? The creature laughed softly. A horrible sound. Yes. Sarah whispered in fear. When does it stop? The creature slowly shook its head. It never stops. Suddenly, the office door opened. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Mark Jensen walked into the kitchen. He looked calm, almost bored. Well, Mark sighed. Looks like the restaurant chose someone again. Daniel shouted. You're insane. Mark shrugged. Maybe. Then he pointed at the creature. But this place makes a lot of money now. Daniel felt sick. You feed people to that thing. Mark smiled coldly. Only night workers. Sarah backed away slowly. You promised the last one was enough. Mark laughed. The deal says one soul every 10 years. He pointed at Daniel. And tonight, the deal continues. The creature suddenly moved. Fast. Too fast. Its claws grabbed Daniel's shoulders. Cold air rushed around him. Daniel screamed. Sarah tried to pull him back, but Kevin grabbed her arm. His voice was full of sadness. Don't. Sarah stared at him. Why? Kevin whispered. Because if you stop it, the creature will take everyone. Daniel struggled violently. Help me. But the creature was already dragging him toward the freezer. The cold air swallowed him. Inside the freezer, the frozen employees slowly opened their eyes. They whispered together, "Welcome." The creature pushed Daniel inside. The freezer door slammed shut. Bang. Silence filled the kitchen. Mark looked satisfied. Good. He turned and walked back to his office. Kevin stared at the freezer door for a long time. Then he slowly faded into the darkness again. Sarah stood alone in the kitchen, shaking, crying. She looked at the order screen. A new message appeared. Employee added. Name, Daniel Carter. Status, night shift, forever. The next morning, customers entered the restaurant like nothing had happened. Children laughed. Families ordered chicken. The smiling Jollibee statue stood outside the door. And inside the kitchen, a new employee walked silently across the floor. His uniform was red. His face was pale. His eyes were empty. And his name tag read, Daniel. He had officially started his first eternal night shift. If you enjoyed this horror story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon for more terrifying stories.